Well, you could start with the word. The Greek word is muthos, M-U-T-H-O-S, and it has two root meanings. Knowing the story, knowing about the story, and the other meaning is telling the story. So myth is knowing the great imaginations that are behind the world, behind the individual life, and behind the life of the world. That's one part of it. And the other part of it is actually telling the stories. So myth is the action and the activity of telling stories, but it's also the aggregation of knowledge about symbols and images and imagination, mythic elements. The one of the old phrases was pointed at the world behind the world. The mythic world is the world behind this world. There's lots of definitions. Another one is a myth is a series of lies that tell the truth. See, people are always trying to tell the truth in a simple didactic way, and you cannot communicate enough truth that way. But if you get a good story, the truth comes out through the story. And so myth in the modern world, most people use it to mean something false. Oh, that's just a myth. But another definition of myth is emergent truth. So again, the world has gone backwards, and people think a myth is false, when a myth is a false thing that reveals the truth. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. It certainly does. And let's talk about why do you think mythology is important for us to embrace as a society today?
Well, so myth is telling the story. When a culture doesn't have a story to tell and doesn't have ways of telling the story, then what happens is people fall out of the story with each other. Story is the natural way of being in the world. You could say every person is a certain arrangement of flesh and bones wrapped around a story. Inside everybody is a story. The story isn't just what a person does, it's the thing trying to live through the person. There's something in us trying to pull us down the road of our story. And so the more people lose myth, the less people know of their own story. You work with a young person and they're suffering, inevitably they think they're the only person that ever went through that. I mean, I've talked to somebody, and I have children, and you hear this, but if they put themselves in a story, they'll say, oh, wait a minute, there's lots of stories about this, and all of a sudden, the story shows how you can live through problems, how you can live through danger, and how you can find things that are hidden, because stories are always revealing something, and people are walking around with hidden gifts and hidden elements of story, which are necessary to live a meaningful life. So that's another idea. Stories give meaning to what otherwise could be meaningless. And one of the things driving people crazy right now is people can't tell what the story is. Are we in the story that's the end of the world? Is that what it is? Looks like Iran might think that. It looks like the White House might think that. Are we in the story that says that this is, that there has to be, more and more meaningless death and more, kind of reckless warfare? Is that, people don't know what story we're in because we have fallen out. Even the Christian story, which would probably be the closest to a dominant story, has been taken literally. People didn't realize it was a myth. What myth means is it has many meanings. And as soon as someone says this is what it means, they have literalized the story and lost the myth. And so as people literalize things more and more, they get a fixed belief about what's right, whereas myth shows that many things can be right. And so when people lose myth, they lose imagination, meaning, and the flexibility of seeing the world in a number of different ways.